Hey guys, this is Illusion PODFIC, and we're back with another chapter of Green Through and Through by another _ Robin. This is chapter 2. The green is following him. He runs and runs, but it's still there. He thinks he's outside now. It's hard to tell, but the floor is damp and uneven under his feet. He tries to focus on that, the feeling of his bare feet against the cobblestone. The glass still embedded in his soles, but it just feels so far away with the green burrowed in his eyes, clinging to his skin. He might be crying, it might be raining, he doesn't know anymore. Just that he is not safe, just that he must move or he will die. He runs for a long time, long enough that the green is being smothered by gold, long enough that he can feel the wind ripping through his hair and the sun on his face and the beat of his heart. He is still running though, because his spider senses assure him that even though it is no longer green, it is still danger. So he sprints with his eyes tightly shut to shield himself against the green world he saw before. This only occurs to him as a bad idea when he runs full speed into something that sends him sprawled onto the pavement. He tastes the copper of blood on his tongue and feels the rough, cool ground on his face. He squints his eyes open and is assaulted by a blinding gray. Slowly, one eye at a time, he adjusts to the light level and surveys his surroundings. Turns out that something that he ran into was a guy. A really buff, oddly dressed guy. Oh my god, he ran over a regular dude with his full strength and speed. In a second, he is at the man's side, surveying him for injuries. His thoughts are muffled by a blanket of green and gold, but his years as a Spider-Man have ingrained these motions deep in his mind. He needs to check for a pulse, but he doesn't trust himself right now. Not with the green lurking just under the surface. The green is dangerous. That makes him dangerous by proxy. That means feeling for a pulse is out. Taking stock of himself, he notes that his senses of hearing and touch are best. His sight is still adjusting to the stark gray sky, and his smell and taste haven't recovered from the whatever that was. Hearing for a heartbeat is also out. His hearing isn't quite that good yet, so that leaves touch, without actually touching him. Great. Making a split-second decision, he rips the faceplate off the man's weird red helmet and thrusts his hands just over the man's nose and mouth. After a second, he realizes that he can feel soft breathing on the back of his hand. Thank fuck. Peter wants to help further, but the green rolling in his stomach reminds him that he can't. Not right now. So they sit. Well, the man lays in a very grimy alley. The man has a tiny mask over his eyes, even though he has a strange helmet. Peter thinks that weird, but he isn't really sure what planet he's on right now, so maybe it's just the fashion over here. Speaking of which, Peter really doesn't know where he is. Last thing he remembers, he was on Titan, but this is definitely not Titan. It looks and feels like Earth, but not anywhere that he recognizes. It smells like post-incident Hell's Kitchen and looks like New York's secret love child with Transylvania. A weird mesh that gives it an uncanny valley effect. He's startled from his thoughts when the man, who he really should have put in the recovery position, starts coughing and tries to sit up. Peter is unsure whether to alert the guy to his presence. His spidey sense is unhelpfully quiet, or as quiet as it has been ever since he woke up. But the man reeks of gunpowder and blood, which doesn't really bode well. Plus, Peter isn't even sure if he can even talk right now, seeing as he feels like he swallowed a gallon of molten metal. So he pushes himself against the wall, hoping to merge with the shadows. Once the man sits up, wow, he was built like a brick shithouse. And stops sputtering, he seems to lock onto Peter's presence and whips around to confront him. Leather jacket whipping around his body. Several emotions flit across the visible part of his face too quickly for Peter's muddled brain to compute before landing on concern. This confuses Peter. He had been expecting anger, or at the very least concern. Did he really look that bad? Glancing down at himself, he realizes that his exterior actually managed to mirror how he was feeling quite well. He's soaking wet from whatever he woke up in. His hair had dried messily on his scalp and was now becoming crunchy. His hands and feet were peppered with shards of glass, leaving thin tracks of blood on his arms and legs. His face is tear-stained, probably red as well, and much to his horror, he isn't wearing anything but his underwear and his binder. All in all, he wasn't looking his best. But he must look even worse, because the man has started speaking to him in a soft, placating tone, with his hands raised and visible, like he's some sort of wild animal. The green doesn't like that. It rears up in his gut like a tidal wave ready to crash and break and destroy. Peter doesn't want to hurt this guy, but he feels less and less in control of himself with every passing second. He squeezes his eyes shut in an attempt to dispel the emerald tinge to his vision. This man seems to sense Peter's discomfort and stops his gentle reassurances, but that makes everything worse. The green calls for blood and gore. How can he be so angry at this man who has done nothing? What's wrong with him? So he runs out of the alleyway, away from the kind man, away from anyone or anything that he could hurt. But the man is following, his thundering footsteps and beat with Peter's thundering heart. He tries to lose them, he really does. But within the minutes, it feels like he's wading through waist-high water. Peter won't let this happen. He won't let himself hurt this man that has been nothing but gentle. He pours on the speed, using every ounce of his freaky spider strength and stamina, leaving the man in the red helmet in the dust. Before running straight up an alley wall and collapsing on the roof, he listens to the squeak of the man's leather shoes against the pavement disappear into the distance and promptly passes out. Alright guys, and that is the end of chapter 2 of Green Through and Through by Another Fucking Robin. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next chapter.